Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and here we are back in the grease pit with Tank Mechanic Simulator. And today, for you, I am going to bring you part 2 of the Panzer 4G video. I couldn't wrap everything up with the Panzer 4G in one video, so now I'm going to finish up and give you the rest of the information for the Panzer 4. We're going to begin in October 1940. The Panzer 4E was introduced. The new 4E would upgrade the bow plate to 30 millimeters. Also, a 30 millimeter applique plate was added to the upper glacis as well. The plate was added as an interim measure. It would seem obvious that the German High Command felt that the Panzer IV was under-armored, especially on the frontal arc of the vehicle. A new driver's visor was added as well. The new visor was used from the Stug 3. Next, the commander's cupola was changed. They used the cupola from the Panzer 3G. Older model of Panzer IVs would be returned to the manufacturer for servicing. 206 Panzer 4Es would be produced from October 1940 to April 1941. In April 1941, production of the Panzer IV-F would begin. The 30 millimeter applique plate would be replaced. Now, the Panzer IV would have a 50 millimeter steel plate, and the sides would be increased as well. The armor would be increased from 20 millimeters to 30 millimeters on the sides. So once again, we're seeing more armor increasements on the tank as it is taking over more and more of the German mainstay of armored fighting vehicles, or at least armored tanks in the German army. The engine exhaust muffler was shortened, as well as a new compact auxiliary generator muffler was added to the left of the main muffler. All the weight added to the Panzer IV over its various upgrades did begin to rise some problems with mobility and performance. The tracks would be widened from 380 millimeters to 400 millimeters. This improved the ground pressure of the now 22.3 ton Panzer IV. The Panzer IV-F, later 4F1, I'll explain that in a bit, would be produced from April 1941 to March 1942, and a total of 471 Panzer IV-Fs would be produced. As of this point, the Panzer IV-F would reach the highest production of all the Panzer IV models previously produced. On May 26, 1941, just a few weeks before the launch of Operation Barbarossa, during a conference with Hitler, it was decided to improve the main gun of the Panzer IV. Krupp was awarded a contract to mount a 50 millimeter Pak 38 L60 onto the Panzer IV. In November of 1941, however, the first 50 millimeter Panzer prototype was delivered, but the shock of the T-34-76 and KV-1 made German High Command scrap the idea of mounting a 50 millimeter gun onto the Panzer IV. Instead, Krupp, in conjunction with Rheinmetall, would design a new 75 millimeter anti-tank gun. The new gun would be known as the KWK 40 L43. And a quick snippet here, because there was two different 75 millimeter anti-tank guns mounted. The L43 has more of a rounded ball type muzzle brake. That way you know when you actually look at the guns, because looking at the gun length is hard to tell, considering the one is an L43 and the other is an L48. But anyway, the new 75 millimeter gun would have a 74% increase in muzzle velocity over the older KWK 37 L24, the L24 being the howitzer type gun, the short barrel gun. This would increase the accuracy and penetration. It was said that the KWK L-43 could penetrate 77 millimeters of steel at 1,800 meters. That's actually quite a bit of range. Um, the new gun would allow the Panzer IV to engage and destroy the T-34-76 at ranges the T-34-76 could not even engage in, mostly due to optics. And of course, their 76 millimeter gun really was not a well performing gun. The longer 75 millimeter gun was a mixed blessing, however. While the new tank could engage the T-34-76 and the KV-1 and destroy them, it made the Panzer IV nose heavy. As a result, the front suspension springs were under constant compression. In any case, the Panzer IV's gun was upgraded, and the models of the new gun was called the Panzer IV F2. So actually, when the Panzer IV-F was first introduced, it was such, and then when they introduced the Panzer IV-F2, the older models of the 4F would actually be renamed 4F1. 4F2, though, would become the main part of the production line. Around 135 Panzer IV-F2s were available for the 1942 summer offensive in Russia, and these were the only tanks that could defeat the KV-1 and T-34 with its sheer firepower. The Panzer IV-F2 would also serve with General Rommel's Afrika Korps. General Rommel, however, would only receive 27 of the Panzer IV-F2. It was quickly realized that the new Panzer outperformed the British Matilda II tanks and the M3 Grant tanks. It could outrange them, it had better penetration, better accuracy, etc. 3 months after production of the Panzer IV-F2 began, it was renamed to Panzer IV-G. Production of the Panzer IV-G would run from March 1942 to June 1943. It would receive some additional upgrades over its service as well. A 30 millimeter applique steel plate was added to the upper glacis plate, increasing the armor from 50 millimeters of effective armor to 80 millimeters of effective armor on the upper glacis plate. Slits were added to the engine deck to improve cooling in hot climates. A device was added to heat the engine coolant to also improve the Panzer IV's cold weather performance. A starter fluid injector was added as well. This was because there was some issues with the Panzer IV starting during the Russian winter of 1942. Well, 1941, 1942. Late models of the Panzer IV-G would see an increase in the armor for the commander's cupola. The cupola was upgraded from 50 millimeters of armor to 95 millimeters of armor. That's quite a bit of armor on the commander's cupola area, actually making the commander's cupola the thickest armored area of the Panzer IV at the time, considering that the turret, I believe the turret face only had 50 millimeters, excluding the gun mantlet, and 80 millimeters on the upper glacis plate. In April of 1943, the Panzer IV-G would receive a gun upgrade again. The KWK-40 L-43 would be replaced with the more powerful KWK L-48. Now, to tell the difference once again, just as a reminder, the L-43 had more of a rounded ball type muzzle brake, where the L-48 had more of a cylinder type muzzle brake, kind of like what you see on the Panther tank. Production of the Panzer IV-G would continue until the introduction of the Panzer IV-H a few months later. But the Panzer IV would continue its service with Germany until the end of the war, being actually the mainstay tank, even though the Panther was actually even supposed to replace the Panther IV. It's just that production of the Panther was not high enough to actually completely replace even the Panzer IV. But the Panzer IV would also see some combat action in the Middle East after the war's end. But so there you go. I'm actually going to wrap it up there for the history of the Panzer IV-G. There was some other models of Panzer IVs after. There was the Panzer IV-H, which is the easiest to know of a Panzer IV-H, is if you look at the sides and the turret, you will see the Schützen plates, the additional armor plates around the turret and on the sides. And then there was also the Panzer IV-J. But so the Panzer IV would continue its service and would continue being upgraded even after the Panzer IV-G. But all that said and done, I'm going to shut my mouth now, let the video play continue for a little bit longer, and I will be with you at the end of the video. All right, so there we go. This is the end of the video, folks. Now, I am going to throw a link in the video description for part one of this two-part series. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you got a better understanding of how the Panzer IV actually evolved from being a support tank to essentially the medium tank that would become the battle tank of the German army. But anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Throw a like in the video description, things of that nature if you did. And yeah, hopefully I will see you again for the next video I do for Tank Mechanics Simulator. Have yourself a wonderful week.